Hey family, happy Thursday. Welcome, welcome. Sergeant Dorsey Speaks live at um, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. on the East Coast. What's up? As you guys come into the room, you know what to do. Share this on your timeline. I'm going to be doing the same thing, sharing it on my public pages. You know, I have two, Sergeant Dorsey Speaks and retired LAPD Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey. I know some of you know that I have two because you guys have gone to both of them to let me have it. And so yeah, it's been a crazy, crazy week in the world and life of Sergeant Dorsey Speaks. So it's all good, you guys. I am not to be deterred. Hey Edward, what's up? I am not to be deterred, and we're going to talk a little bit about that, and I'm going to have a good time at the expense of the trolls and the Twitter bites and the mouth breathers and every other fool who came for me over the last 7 days. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. For those of you who are new, because I've got a lot of newcomers, you know, the trolls have been sending all of their friends to my social media. So thank you, thank you. Welcome, welcome. I am, in fact, for those of you who are wondering, a retired veteran sergeant in the Los Angeles Police Department, 20 years in patrol, working in every area of the city. I worked all 4 geographic bureaus during my time, all in patrol, proud to say. And yeah, welcome. Happy to have you. For those of you who are all new and don't know, I am the author of an autobiography, and I know some of you have already been doing a little homework, a little research on me. So I just wanted to send you over to Amazon or my website, www.sgtcheryldorsey.com, for my autobiography. For those of you who really have a thirst and a yearning to know what's up with me, let me help you with your research. Let me help you with your research. Black and Blue, the creation of a social advocate, will explain everything that you need to know about who I am and what I do and why IDGAF about what you think about me. Let me just say that. Also, I have a podcast, Sergeant Dorsey Speaks, in case you didn't get enough of me on YouTube and you want to listen to what I have to say so you can pick my podcasts apart. Sergeant Dorsey Speaks on every podcast platform that's available to man, just about. iHeart, iTunes, Spreaker, Stitcher, TuneIn, Google Podcasts. Yeah, I'm on all of them. So evidently folks want to know what I have to say, right? Let's get to it. Let's get to it. Let me start off by saying that there's some really good information on my podcast, by the way. I mean, every week I have good information, I think. But for those of you who haven't already subscribed, do. Sergeant Dorsey Speaks on the podcast platform of your choice. And some of what you will have missed is a story about a young man who's a quarterback on the Georgia Southern football team. And you may have seen the story surfacing on social media about this young man being stopped because officers, when they stopped him for speeding, said that there was cocaine on the hood of his car. I don't know how in the heck you can speed down a highway. Hey, Barry, I don't know how in the heck you could, be speeding and you would risk losing that good cocaine on the hood of your car, right? So these officers stopped this young brother man and they accused him of having cocaine on the hood of his car after they stopped him and got him out. And so it was a whole thing. I talked about it on my podcast. I won't go into it again here, but it's just stupid all day long. So for those of you who haven't heard and want to know what I think about it, Sergeant Dorsey Speaks podcast on the platform of your choice. Now, listen. I put up this video and folks are all caught up in their feelings about this KTLA interview that I did last week with regards to the mass shooters in Dayton, Ohio, and El Paso. And one of the things that I said, listen, and I talked about this, I kind of amended my post, if you will, for those who, are bothered, that I had 5 minutes and I had a lot of stuff to get off my chest in 5 minutes. And so I misspoke. I referred to one of the shooters as having a double barrel magazine on his gun. And when I said he had a double barrel magazine, now listen, I'm used to saying double barrel shotgun, right? That's what was in my head. And so my mouth got ahead of my brain, or vice versa. And I referred to multi-round magazines as a double barrel magazine. What I meant was a double drum. Trolls. And so, man, did they come after me. And listen, it was entertaining because they were telling their friends, go to her Facebook page, go to her Instagram account, go to her YouTube. And I mean, they were coming like damn animals on Noah's Ark. They were coming in groups of 2, 12, however trolls move around. Once they're out of their cave, they came for me. And so I just want to say thank you, Mr. Troll, Mrs. Troll, because, here's what you did for me last week. And I hope you tell everybody to come back this week, because my analytics were just through the roof. On YouTube, my views went up by 130% on YouTube, because they were coming over to let me have it, as if I really care about what they think about what I said. My watch time increased on YouTube by 63%. And trolls, you understand, a lot of what you're judged by on YouTube is watch minutes. And so thank you for sending your friends over to watch my video and figure out at what point in the video, how many minutes and seconds it was before I said double barrel magazine, so that they could lose their collective minds. I appreciate it. And they didn't just stop there. And oh no, they went to Instagram. I had 1,074 visits on my Instagram photo from the set of KTLA last week. I reached an additional 393 accounts on Instagram. There were 5,355 impressions, thanks to my haters. And then on Facebook, I had an increase in my post reach of 26% and an additional 127 engagements on my public page on Facebook. So thank you, haters. Thank you. Let's do that again. Let's keep those numbers going in an upward spiral, shall we? If you guys just understood, I tried to tell you, and I'm going to have to keep it PG, but your agreement is not required, right? I had a family member reach out to me, and I want to thank her, female law enforcement officer, who came to me and asked me, could you explain that? Because I really want to know what you meant by that. And I explained to her what I explained to you. And she says, okay, I'm going to go back into the caves and tell them. And then she came back and told me they don't want to hear it. They're still mad and bothered. And so, but I want to thank my sister in blue. I'm not going to mention your name, but thank you for, trying. And that's why I don't engage them, because most times what they want is the interaction. They want the fight. And as soon as I have something to say about what it is they think, then, it's on. It's on and cracking. And I just really don't have that kind of time or energy, trolls, to devote to you. But I do appreciate the fact that you have helped me increase my reach, my profile. You guys promised that I was going to be viral on the internet, and, you were right, I guess, because I got a lot of attention. So thank you. Now, what I also want to make mention of real quick, because in addition to them being bothered by the whole double barrel magazine thing that I said, they were bothered about all of this amazing Black girl magic. They wanted me to cut my hair. They wanted me to eat a bag of, dirty old penises. So on that note, let me just do my plug for my good friend over at Silky Shea Butter. Silky Shea Butter, I have two. I have lavender. Thank you, Magnanimous. I hope I'm saying that right. I have two. I have jasmine and I have lavender. And when I tell you that this is everything, man, this smells so good. So for those of you who don't want to cut your hair like I'm not gonna, and you're looking for a product for your natural hairstyle, check out my friend who has this amazing product, Silky Shea. There you go. There you go. And thank you to my sister girl, Ursula, who keeps me looking like I do. I appreciate you and my trolls appreciate you. So thank you, thank you. On to something else. And so listen, we talked about, two mass shootings recently. Here we go. Two mass shootings recently. And the whole point of me mentioned in the magazines and extra capacity, double drums, extended clips, whatever you guys want to call them, you Second Amendment crazy people. I'm not a gun nut. I have guns because I was a cop, but if I didn't get the terminology right, the point is that why is anyone in an urban setting need the ability to fire 30 rounds and hit 30 people in 30 seconds? It doesn't make sense to me. And so we had here in Riverside, California, a young police officer, I believe he's 33 years old, CHP officer, shot and killed by someone who looks like a long rifle. I don't even want to say what he had, but he had something that he probably didn't need to have. And then, of course, a couple of days ago in Philadelphia, there was a big shootout when the officers were serving some kind of an arrest warrant. And this person, again, had the ability and the capacity to stock and fire a lot of rounds in a minimal amount of time. And so I stand by my position in that I don't think that should be had in an urban environment. Hey, Olivia, thank you, girl. You know how we do, right? I look fabulous. Of course I do. And I always know, who it is that gets bothered by this, right? That's why we had to come out with the whole Senator Holly Mitchell had to come out with the whole Crown Act, because folks get all caught up in their feelings about, what we do with our hair. And yeah, they were mad at me about a lot of different things, and my hair was one of them. So, but it's all good. I just, I got to be me. So I was undeterred and I was unmoved. But you know what? Let me say this before I go back and talk about this shooting in Philadelphia, because one of the things that I've been attacked, not regularly, but intermittently, since I started doing this. And so let me say this to people who also get attacked by internet gangsters, folks who stand behind some moniker and pseudonym that you can never really know who it is that you're dealing with, and they're Billy Badass on that keyboard. If you ever find yourself subjected to that kind of BS, I hope and pray that you find the strength to understand that you are good all by yourself, and that no matter what another person says about you, about your positions, their agreement is not required. I didn't know when I started this, you guys, how invested people get in what another person says, because I appreciate those of you who support me and have kind things to say, but I'm of the opinion, if you don't agree with me, then just keep it moving. Just keep it moving. But people find me, they research me, and they just spread all kind of mistruths and misinformation, and then they attack. And I know that this is not unique to me. I know that this happens to other people. And so if you find yourself being bullied, whether it's on a computer, whether it's on a schoolyard, whether it's in the workplace, I hope you can turtle up. LAPD taught me that technique, turtle up, right? And keep it moving. Keep it moving. You're good all by yourself. So don't let these gangsters on the internet wear you down and wear you out, okay? This Philadelphia shooting, it was kind of interesting, right? Because we had someone who had the capacity and the ability to stockpile a lot of weapons or a dangerous weapon at the very least, and a lot of ammo, according to the mayor. The mayor talked about what this person had access to. And then, of course, a little tinktink chimed in because he didn't have much to say last week when those shooters looked like him, right? The ones that they want to claim had mental illness. Thankfully, the Philadelphia shooter, brother man, was taken into custody without incident. So they can take you into custody without incident when they want to, if you look like me. And he'll stand before a jury and they'll deal with him. No officers were killed, thankfully. But Tink Tink had a lot to say about that. And, he said that this guy should not be allowed to be on the streets because he's a very dangerous criminal. He has a very dangerous criminal record. And yeah, we're not going with the mental illness situation here. Maybe he has an extensive criminal record because he's mentally ill, Tink Tink. I don't know. I'm just saying. Very interesting how that works. And to that point, his AG came out with some position about being tough and zero tolerance for folks who don't obey law enforcement. And so, listen, it don't affect me because I'm the law. But you guys understand that in the next 2 years, there's a whole lot more damage that can be done. And I don't know if someone else gets in the White House, if they're going to be able to, in this lifetime of mine, undo all of the craziness that has occurred during this person's term in office. And so this is why you vote. This is why you don't cut your nose to spite your face. And listen, I'm an anybody but girl. I've said that before. So I'm still undecided. Don't know what this field is going to whittle down to, but I am all about anybody but, because you guys already dropped the ball. Those of you who didn't vote and allowed these 2 lifetime appointments on the Supreme Court that can do great harm and damage. Other federal judges that are being appointed in lifetime positions that are young and can do great harm and damage. It's not going to affect me, probably won't affect my sons, but it could linger around for my grandchildren, right? And yours. So you guys don't be stupid. 2020, you need to get out there and vote. I found something else with regards to this whole mass shooter thing. And, there's reports that there's information being shared on their sites, these white nationalists, KKK, alt-right people sites, about them being less than minority in terms of population. And so I think it's causing them some great consternation. And that's why, this shooter in El Paso targeted Hispanics, because of rhetoric that was being used by the president, calling them invaders and talking about an invasion, and people are invading. And this person in El Paso used that same verbiage, said he went there hunting for Mexicans. And, I've said this before, and so I'm gonna just say it again, because it seems to me like there is great effort to not call the Dayton, Ohio shooting a hate crime. I've read some articles, and I talked about this too on my podcast, but I'm gonna say it again here, because I've read articles where they refer to the boyfriend of the sister of the Dayton shooter only as a male companion, only as a friend. Whenever they use his reference, his designation in a story, they never say his name. And I believe, I don't know, I'm just saying, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I'm just saying that if they were to say his name, then we could obviously go to the pictures of the 9 people that were killed and figure out if in fact her boyfriend was a male Black, because I believe that he was, and they won't say it. I also believe that the shooter in Dayton, Ohio picked Ned Peppers because it's a Black venue. is predominantly patronized by Black folks. And they're not really saying that. They're kind of glossing over it. They're saying that the area is very diverse and a lot of people are there and blah, blah, blah. But if you look at that video, Ned Peppers, you see people like me running and ducking. And so I don't know why they're going to such great lengths, in my mind, to not say it. And so people who look like me, you guys better pay attention. You better pay attention because up until Ned Peppers, as far as I understood, that was kind of the first time that I feel like Black people were really targeted in a mass shooting incident. So, you know, they don't care if they shoot up a school full of babies. You know, they don't care if they shoot up a convenience store where possible immigrants are. And they don't care for sure, if they shoot up an establishment that caters to people who look like me. So, note to self, pay attention when you're out there. It's kind of, you know, what we have to do now anyway, right? When you're out, you better have an exit strategy and an idea about a rear entry, rear exit in the event you need to leave. And you need to have those conversations with your loved ones so that they know to keep their head on a swivel too. Grocery store, church, movie theater, convenience store. Pay attention. The other thing that I wanted to share with you, and this kind of goes back to dealing with us and police and violence, uses of force. It's reported that death by police now has been ranked the 6th leading cause of death among young men. Now it says young men, but I'm gonna just go ahead and insert young Black men. Death by police is number 6. It used to be believed to be number 4, but now there's reports and surveys and studies that are showing that the lifetime risk for Black men right now is about 1 death per 1,000 over the course of your life. So in other words, they're estimating that for every 100,000 Black male babies born over the course of their life, you know, it's estimated that about 100 will be killed by police. 1 in 1,000 risk of death for a Black man by a police officer. And this was gleaned from data that was looked at between 2013 and 2018. And there are a couple of professors who are behind this survey, and a group called, the professor is, his name is Professor Edwards, and he's over at Rutgers University. And there's another group called Fatal Encounters, and they kind of got together and looked at vital statistics and looked at reporting from journalists, because police departments don't always report fatalities. And so they were able to glean a lot of information. And what they believe is that young men between 25 and 29 are dying, 6 leading cause because of police force, right? And so the way they break this down, and not only 20 to 29, but they also said 25 to 29, there's 2 groups, 25 to 29, and then 20 to 29. The numbers are the same. And so they break it down like this. They say that accidents are the first leading cause, and that includes vehicles and overdoses. Okay, accidents, number 1, followed by suicides, followed by homicides, followed by heart disease for Black men between 20 to 29, and then police. So police are just, you know, 1 click below cancer is what the report says. That's pretty astonishing. They are likening this to a health crisis for Black men, 20 to 29. Ooh-wee. I mean, I know how tough it is, you know, to find a brother over, you know, anywhere north of 50. So I don't know what the young ladies between 20 and 29 are going to do if they are killing off 1 in 1,000 of your eligibles. It's a lot to think about. R. Kelly back in the news. He's in Chicago right now, and I guess he wouldn't come out of his cage, so he missed his court date today, and they held it without him. But anyway, now it's reported that he's been talking to Mesereau, the attorney that represented Michael Jackson during his child molestation issues, and there's all kind of stuff going on. Now, I don't know if this is a sympathy campaign and they're trying to get people to feel sorry for R. Kelly because they're saying, you know, he's still struggling mightily in jail. He's having a tough time. His attorney said, on the one hand, he said fans are just pouring in emails and he's pouring over them, but he can't read. So if he can't read, I don't know how he's pouring over this fan mail. But nonetheless, the attorney said, yeah, he's getting a lot of fan mail, but even with that, he still is, not in a good place. And one of his alleged sex slaves has visited him, but only one, and they didn't say which one has visited him. And then also there's an effort to keep his medical records sealed. Now, I'm assuming that the reason that they want to keep his medical records sealed is because, some of the victims have alleged that he's given them STDs. And so I guess if it were ever to be made known what his situation is, what's he dealing with, that would validate and kind of lead some credence to what, some of these victims are saying. So don't know what's going to happen with that, but I'm kind of R. Kelly'd out. I don't know about you. I've got R. Kelly fatigue. So I may not, I probably won't, unless it's really significant, come back and give you any more updates on that. In Richmond, Virginia, there is concern because juveniles, Black juveniles, are being stopped at a rate that's disproportionate to other juveniles for curfew violations. And so now there's been some data that's been released by the Richmond Police Department, and it shows that juveniles are being stopped for, air quotes, suspicious activity and disorderly conduct. And listen, suspicious activity, that could mean anything, right? An officer can come up with any reason to say that you are acting or looking suspicious and then, get you into the system. According to this data from 2018, 98% of the blacks, 98% of the stops were Black folks, and that they are disproportionately enforcing curfew laws. I don't know what they're going to do about it now that they know. I don't know if they're going to pull back on those kinds of detentions. The reports say that although they're making more curfew arrests, it's not really reducing crime, and it's not protecting kids from being victims of crime, because that is the reason that they're giving for encountering and engaging these young people when they're out after hours, is because it's under the guise of let's try to lower crime and let's make sure these kids aren't victimized. And while 98% of Black folks, or 98% of the folks being stopped and dealt with for curfew violations are Black, crime is not down, and victimization of children is not down. So says in 2018, 12,000 people were stopped on suspicion of a curfew violation. So of that 12,000, 80% of them were Black. Now I want to talk a little bit about this whole Jeffrey Epstein thing. And, for those of you who didn't see, I'm kind of excited about this. I was on this TV show. It live streams Wednesdays. It may live stream every day, but I was on Wednesday, and I'll be back on again next Wednesday on the Law and Crime Network. And it kind of reminds me of back in the day when I used to watch Court TV when Nancy Grace was on there. I think now the True TV channel does a lot of trial stuff. And so we were looking at and discussing a couple of trials that are going on. There was a jury watch on yesterday for someone that's referred to as the Hollywood Ripper. And I don't know if you guys heard about him, because I hadn't until I researched his story. till I researched his story for the show yesterday, but he was found guilty today. The Hollywood Ripper. He had over, I believe, 15 years, killed 3 women and attempted to kill another woman. And it's the lady who survived, the sole survivor in 2008, fought him off. And in the midst of him trying to stab her and kill her, he cut himself and bled profusely in her apartment, in her bed. And that was one of the ways that they were able to, number one, catch him, and then do some comparisons and realize that he had been involved in some other murders dating back to 1993. His last name is Gardillo. Never mind his name. The Hollywood Ripper. They found him guilty today. And then there was another trial that we discussed. Guy who got into a dispute with his neighbor, shot and killed him, an Asian guy. There's a jury watch on that verdict as well. And so perhaps next week when I go back on the show, we'll maybe catch up, recap those, or talk about whatever else is going on. So, I really do feel like that juggler with the plates on the, I don't want to move too fast and freeze my image, but, the plates on the little pole, right? So lots going on. I had an amazing meeting on yesterday with my friend who's a writer director. We're working on something, and yeah, I'm going to just wait to speak more on it, but I'm excited about where that's headed. And yeah, so I just need 2 or 3 of you to stand in agreement with me, and then I'll keep you posted on that. But back to this Epstein thing, because we were going to talk about that on yesterday. And so listen, the scapegoating has begun, right? Because this AG has gone after the warden and 2 staffers who said they fell asleep. And now the autopsy report is out on Epstein, and it's reported that he had some injuries to his neck. Now they're saying the injuries to the neck are kind of indicative of someone who was strangled, but it could have been injuries that were caused by him wrapping his bed sheet around his neck, and that's how he's alleged to have completed this suicide. I don't know. I don't think that he was murdered, but that's just me, because killing him doesn't stop anything. I think it makes it easier to go after his estate. And listen, the things that they have, the documents, the notes, the journals, the little black books, they have it. And Jeffrey being dead doesn't negate that. So I don't know. But BAR, Bureau of Prisons, as well as DOJ, which BAR is over, and ultimately little tinktink is over him. So all of them are really in the chain of command, if you will, for people who should have been notified with this high profile inmate being taken off a suicide watch. There are protocols and policies and procedures that were not followed. And now we know that I think the 2 people that were relieved of duty, if you will, taken off and put on administrative leave, at least one of them was asleep. Is that shocking? Is that hard to believe? No, because listen, copper friends, we've all had, off-duty jobs, and, you're just a warm body. You looking to work smarter and not harder, right? And so this person came back, according to reports, from retirement to take on this extra job of guarding, babysitting, inmates, and just happened to have a high-profile inmate. And, I'm sure that they falsified logs all the time, right? That's what they do. It's not a problem until it's a problem. And now it's a problem because they had a high-profile inmate and they were falsifying the logs because that's what they do. They were sleeping on duty because that's what they do. And listen, you can get a whole lot done if you determined in 15 minutes or in 30 minutes. But we now know, according to the logs, that there were hours that went by between checks on Epstein. So everybody, except for those who should be dealt with, are being dealt with. Now, I'm not saying that the people that were sleeping on the job and falsifying the logs shouldn't be dealt with, but I think, the fish rots at the head. And so I don't know how. Well, I know how, but it doesn't seem fair. It doesn't seem right. And, shit's not fair. But it doesn't seem right that there wouldn't be some grief going up the same way it's coming down. Give me a second, Joseph. I want to see what you said. Have I had the opportunity to view a recent video by Ricky Smiley talking about his associates and telling him about his upcoming presidential election and possible violence if Trump loses? No, I haven't looked at anything about that, Joseph, and I don't believe really that there's going to be violence if little Tink Tink doesn't win. I don't believe that for a minute. So really, to be honest, Joseph, I try to take in very little about Tink Tink because it's just too much and it's too long before the election. And so I don't need to be kept abreast every minute, every hour with regards to what's going on, what he's saying. I subscribe to the Rachel Maddow way of thinking when it comes to that guy, not paying attention to what he says, but watching what he does. Because listen, he's messed up in a whole lot of ways, but one thing he is good at, Tink Tink I'm talking about, is manipulating the news cycle, distraction, and changing the story. And so right now, and you've seen it happen before where he will say something outrageous, ridiculous, that makes no doggone sense because he wants to change the narrative. He wants to change the story. And so for that reason, I don't follow, you know, what he thinks, what he says, and what he's spouting off about. I don't believe for a minute that folks are going to riot. I mean, there may be some protests, but I don't think that people are going to riot because of him not being reelected. And that's my hope and prayer. So I need 2 or 3 of you to stand with me on that as well. When you do listen to my podcast, I have my first subscriber. I mean, my first sponsor. So thank you to Zimmy Williams, author of Surviving the Oral Interview, Boot Camp for the Mind. You will hear me reference his book, which is available on Amazon.com. So thank you, Zimmy, for stepping up and being my first. I appreciate you. Anybody else who has an interest in wanting to have your product or a service shared across my platforms, you can either send me a message on IM or you can send me an email, sergeantdorseyspeaks@gmail.com. And I'll discuss with you what's available, packages and pricing and all of that. And just know that I will only accept one person per category. So if you are an author and you have a book, once that category is filled, then that category is filled. And so I won't, I'm not going to be reading off 3-4 books. That's what I'm not going to do. But anyway, yeah, Sergeant Dorsey Speaks. You can support my show at Cash App, Sergeant Dorsey Speaks. For those of you who are new, first timers, those who were sent to me by the trolls and the Twitter mites, visit my website, www.sergeantcheryldorsey.com. Visit Amazon.com and take a look at my autobiography, The Creation of a Social Advocate. You can read the first chapter of that book on my website as well. There is a second book on my website that hasn't been released yet, and some of you know what I'm talking about, The Creation of a Whistleblower. For those of you who haven't heard and have asked, my court case with LAUSD was trailed again. I have a date now for August of 2020. So it's going to be a minute before that book sees the light of day. But I appreciate those of you who have kind of been following that storyline and, have an interest in, what's going on with me with regards to that litigation. For those of you who are going through similar struggles, I appreciate you reaching out to me and sharing your story with me. I hope the information that I've shared with you has been helpful. I appreciate it. Also, because I'm wearing the many hats, right? I feel like, remember in Living Color when they used to joke and talk about, don't be so lazy, you need to be like the Jamaicans and have like 18 jobs, right? So, in addition to everything else that's going on, I am now consulting on a case that I'll share with you a little later, not right now, but it's a use of force case out of Hawthorne. Hawthorne Police Department, use of force case. And when I know more that I can share with you about it, I will. But this was an incident where officers were a little overzealous in their handling of two brothers, two blood brothers who happened to be Black men. And while they survived the encounter because they complied and then they complained, right? And hopefully they'll get paid. But the way they get down in Hawthorne, you guys, if you live there, you already know. If you live in Hawthorne, you already know. And so I'm excited to be a part of this case. I am excited to see what, if anything, might be done to change the policy. Because listen, we are not going to change Hawthorne Police Department. I get that. But at the very least, they're going to understand that if they continue to do the kinds of things that they did in this particular encounter, they're either going to make a whole bunch of millionaires in the city of Hawthorne, or they are going to bankrupt their city. So as I can speak more about that, I will. And thank you everybody for stopping by, checking a sister girl out. To my haters and detractors, thank you for all that you do, all that you've done. And we'll do this again next week, you guys. So until then, be good and be safe.